some of the rough crowd gonna take us out on a muty?
All right, so I'm doing a little bit of a switch up and throwing a wild card here. Since we have a bunch of people who do things that aren't necessarily songs, and I have been struggling to write songs, and I'm getting so frustrated, I decided that, you know what, we're going to fall back on something that I can do, which is I thought would translate to songwriting. It doesn't. But probably none of you know, when I went to NFSU, I was studying poetry. And so I have a lot of poems I've written. So we're going to do 2 poems. They're both real short. It's 2 of them, but they're short. It'll be shorter than a song, so please hold your applause in between the 2 so people don't have to remute. But they're both just little silly poems, and it's something that I've actually done because songwriting is kicking my ass. So let's do this for a minute. So this first one I actually wrote while I was going to tech in a Calc 2 class because my friend was the grader, and I'm bad at math. I still am. And so when I couldn't do a problem, I'd write her a little poem. And so this is my favorite one I ever did for her, and it's called Problem Number 29. Repeated integration is a pain in my ass. Damn my proclivity to repose and miss class. V equals du, u equals dv. The scientific syntax poses problems of perplexity, and indefinite integrals do not but nonplus me with their functions and fractions and constants denoted as c. Do I dare to substitute when the natural log is resolute to not only aggregate with the exponentials x squared, but to square itself in the integral that they share? And if the logarithm is in fact natural, how does e fit in? It's both irrational and transcendental. The thought of it all makes me temperamental. So, with apologies for homework not done in the past, and my problematic proclivity to repose and miss class, I submit no answer, though I know it will hurt me. Please have some compassion and move to problem 30. So that's that one. And the funny thing was, I thought, she would love it. And I'm like, it's so clever, blah, blah, blah. And she's, has a master's degree in chemical engineering, is just so much smarter than me. And she goes, Shelby, I can't give you points for that. Yeah, I know, wasn't the point of it. I love her. That makes her sound like a bitch. She's not. She was worried about my grade. So the second one, I actually wrote in a poetry class. And it's 100% true. And Dad, you probably don't even know this about me. 100% true from when I was a tiny baby. This one's called Every Steak That I Ate. Every steak that I ate prior to the age 5 or so, I ate taken by the mistaken idea that the meat presented by my parents on my dinner plate was actually that of a snake's. An embarrassing blind spot on the brain born by a loose end slithering like a lyre from a well-known garden, causing my brain to hear snake when my father in fact spoke steak. Or maybe I did hear steak, and hearing the word scoured my mind's encyclopedia in search of a creature that fit the criteria that I could relate to the squishy slab on my plate. Unable to find one, my brain settled on snake. I laugh at it now, though the tale does stir strangers' brows, but how was I to know if no one ever calls it cow? And those are my poems.
That's amazing.
A snake don't exactly have pots, but if I had to call it anything, I think I'd call it his knee.
Yeah.